Hey, good morning, America. How are you? Colombia, anybody else that happens to be listening to me or can see me. Still working on trying to figure out if it's worthwhile to me to invest in doing a podcast. Because I don't have the ability to get guests other than maybe a member of my family once in a while, but it doesn't look that way. So I think this is, for me, is probably the easiest and the best, and gives me a head start if they come looking for me. You know what I mean? Okay. Now Hagseth, or the Hag, the nominee for defense secretary, has a drinking problem supposedly. Well, first of all, from what I've read about and seen him in the statements he makes, he doesn't have a drinking problem, which means he does have a drinking problem. That's the first step. First thing you notice about an alcoholic is they deny it. Trust me, I'm an alcoholic, I know. I denied it for 20 years after I quit. What, are you kidding me? The only reason I denied it because it seemed rather easy for me to quit, and it's not. I mean, if you look at the whole process, it wasn't. There's different degrees of alcoholism. If you get total dependency, you need medical help to withdraw from it. You need professional help because it's like withdrawing from heroin. It's the same thing. If you're I don't know, you want to say run-of-the-mill alcoholic, you're just a typical family man alcoholic, you're what they call a functional alcoholic. That's the term I was looking for, which is what I was, because I functioned perfectly. I just drank a lot. I was a binge drinker. If I started, I never stopped until I fell down. I mean, there are a lot of people like that. I don't know what Hagseth's particular style of alcoholism is, other than denial. I've seen reports that he's been out of control, so I'll have to assume that he really likes alcohol, and beer. He says beer because that's what the soldiers drank when they came back, because that was the liquor they could get over there. Most of the guys I know, when they came back, gave up beer and started drinking scotch or bourbon, more bourbon than anything else. Some of them got really bad. When you get really bad, it's when you start drinking gin, and then you go to vodka, because vodka has no smell. That's when you start drinking at work, But you need help, okay? It's not something that you can really do on your own, because you're not objective. You don't see the progress. You don't see the lack of progress. You see progress when there's no progress. You don't see the lack of progress when there's a lack of progress. You say, okay, I quit, that's it. And then you don't go out Saturday night, but you say, well, I won't drink at home. I'll only drink when I go out. And when you go out, you get terrifically sloshed. I drank at home once in a while, a beer or two or something like that, but I was a social alcoholic. I enjoyed the camaraderie that was there, and I think that's his problem too, because I don't think he's a very well-liked man. He married a woman of, seems like a lovely woman now, but at one point in time she had a questionable character. I had a questionable character at one time too, and that's nothing to be ashamed of. It's that's something you can do on your own. You don't usually need professional help to straighten out your character. Sometimes you do. I needed help to straighten out my whole life, and I got it, and it's okay, I think I've done fairly good for myself and what have you since then. But I didn't go to AAA because I looked into AAA and I said, that requires a certain amount of self-analyzation to figure out why you're drinking. And I'm never real good. I studied psychology and sociology in college, and that's just not the direction you want to go in. Self-analyzation makes you a little nutty. So I went to one shrink, and he put me in a group right away, and then asked me to leave. When I sat down, and I said, look, I said to this one kid in the group, I said, look, every time you come up and you speak, you say the same problem over and over again. What are you doing here? You're not trying to help yourself. This is a social night out for you or something. This is this isn't really helping you. And I was asked to leave the group. The group administrator asked me to leave because I was doing his job and he didn't want. And some of the students said that, and I wasn't trying to do his job. I just felt that if I was going to be here, I wanted to accomplish something, and these people seemed that they didn't want to accomplish anything. Okay, so I go along, and then I became suicidal at one point in time. I was very close to it. Right up to putting the towels in the doors and the windows and everything like that. But I had a cat, and I looked at the cat and said, I can't do this to you, and that saved my life. So I made some phone calls with the help of a friend of mine, and I got a hold of this, not a psychiatrist, a psychologist, and he was working out of a hospital. I don't remember his name because that was part of the deal. Forget it. To forget him and never recognize him on the street or anything like that, and I didn't. I never saw him again after I left, and I'm very grateful to that man, though. He was like hypnotizing me almost. I mean, we'd get into some stuff, and it was so deep and so intense, and I would come out of there, get in my car to drive to work, and all of a sudden I realized I'm 30 miles in the wrong direction, and I have no idea how I got there, but I knew what was going on, and it worked. I didn't say it because friends of mine and whatnot, people that knew me said, you're a different person now, and we eventually came to a point in time in the sessions where he felt that I was able to go on my own, and I did, and I have no regrets. Never started drinking again. But I did discover why, and we won't go into that right now. But it's like everybody else. It's a family issue. You can be inherited. That's what the other thing people don't realize, that alcoholism can be inherited, because that's the physical aspect of it. You have a physical I don't know what you call it, addiction, ability to become addicted, so easily. Addictive personality. I do, to a certain degree. I go off on tangents about things like, this I'm on a tangent on about now. I like doing this. Gives me something. I don't know what it is, but it gives me something. I guess I keep saying I'm going to keep doing this until people turn around and say, you're just so full of shit, get off here, stop doing it, But anyhow, the point I'm trying to make here is that Hegseth can't just walk in and promise, I'm never going to drink again. And it's what he supposedly promises Donald Trump, and that's not going to work. And Donald comes from a family of alcoholics. He lost his brother to alcoholism, and he understands that. And he understands that that's not going to work. And if he thinks it is, and he accepts this guy, then he's looking for a scapegoat down the road. He's going to dump Hegseth down the road for some reason, and that's all he wants him around for. So, it's a sad thing, but that might be what he's keeping him around for. Trump is such a manipulator, such a tiny little brain and a tiny little mind. Anyhow, that's my story about alcoholism. I think you have to have help. You have to have a support system, And support systems are close friends. People you would go to like people you'd go to die for. You jump in front of a car to help them. Those are the kind of friends you need. Or they jump in front of a car to save you. Those are the kind of friends you need. The ones that'll sit down and tell you, hey, asshole, you gotta stop this shit, And then they walk away. They don't bother you. They don't harass you. They'll still answer your phone calls. They just may not hang out with you anymore, because you become an embarrassment. Okay, moving on. Trump has a cabinet surrounded by very, very, very inexperienced people. Now, you can be, if you're educated in a certain type of work it's similar to what you're doing that they want you to do, you can become somewhat educated and some you can help. But if you're like the defense secretary and you don't know enough really how to handle the Army, Navy, Marines, and everybody else at one time, you don't know what to do, it's not a good person to have. You have to be able to think on your feet. If you're going to be a cabinet member, you have to have the ability to come up with a plan within minutes, not days, hours, weeks, or months. Okay, this can't be some dream you have that you're going to say, this is going to work. No, you have to be able to prove it to other people, the people you're commanding. I never liked the military because when I was in the National Guard, I had opportunities to go into Air Force or something else, and I just didn't want to do it because I just didn't have any respect for the leadership I was associated with. I just thought that Vietnam was a shitty war and a shitty time to be around the military because there were so many people looking out for themselves and not looking out for the country or their men. So but let's not get into that too much. All right, it gets a lot of people upset, and I don't want them mad at me. But it is a problem for this cabinet that they don't seem to have enough people in there that can think on their feet. Trump can't think on his feet. He comes in with a group of ideas. If you put certain questions to him, he goes off on a tangent, and he doesn't know the questions. Believe me, all politicians are giving the questions before they're interviewed, all right? If somebody throws a weird question at him, they cut the interview short, or they'll cut it, so that the questionnaire is yelled and screamed at for asking that question. Or Trump gets up or any politician will get up and walk off the set because they're not prepared for that question, all right? Or they know the topic but not the particular question, and they can bullshit their way through it. I'm not sure that Hexat or JFK Jr. could, RFK Jr. could do this. Think off the top of their head in a crisis situation where you have not hour. You have to make a decision in 5 minutes or 5 hours. I'll give you 5 hours. How did Kennedy handle the Cuban Missile Crisis? I'm not sure if the movies are right or whatever, or not that. You have to realize that there was a lot of tension and split section. You had to make decisions right away. You're in a conversation with Khrushchev. You can't say, well, let me call you back in a couple of hours. I got to talk this over with a bunch of people. No, you had to make a decision. You had to be able to keep the conversation going with some sort of decision-making process. And people on his cabinet, I don't think are capable of doing that. I don't think there's any one person there right now that could do that. People say, well, he has Musk. Musk is going to make his decisions for him. Yeah, Musk makes decisions based upon whether or not it's good for him, not whether or not it's good for you. So I don't think that's a good method of making progress at all either. I just feel that everybody has flaws, and the problems I see with a lot of the cabinet picks, besides the fact that they can't think on their feet fast, is I just don't. I think they have some issues that just don't make any personal issues, and they're using their position to satisfy personal gripes, or to prove personal policy or thought, And the thing about that is you don't use America to prove your theories, Don't use the general public to try and prove your theories. Well, listen, I should have said this at the beginning of the video when you were still paying attention, but listen, if you liked what I do, or if you just think I'm funny, or you're crazy, you just whatever, hit the subscribe button. If you like this particular video, hit the like button, and do it for me. Please do it now, because I'm not trying to generate money off of this thing, because I don't want to have to do this. If I don't feel like doing it someday, I'm just not going to do it. I don't want to depend on this. This is pretty much fun for me, but I would like to get a little bit of respect out of YouTube, or some response so people are at least looking at it. If they don't like me, that's fine. But I would appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you a dime to do that. You don't get advertisements in the mail. And hit the like button, the same thing. You don't get, they'll just notify you when I'm doing a video, and if you like it, fine. Well, thanks for listening to me today, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Football Sunday.